CPOV.
CertainPOV.com.
Hey, Legionnaires, this is Jim and Jay here with a Legion alert. What do we got going on, Jay?
We decided we needed to talk about Superman number 28 because the Legion is back in DC Comics, and we get the Trinity of the Legion, Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, and Cosmic Boy back dealing with Superman. So we wanted to talk about, give a quick sort of mini review, talk about what we thought. So let's just put the warning right ahead. If you have not read Superman 28, we are going to spoil everything. We're going to talk about everything that we see, the good. I don't want to say the bad because I actually really enjoyed this, but let's just say some of the nitpicky things. So let's just start with this. Jim, what was your first take on the book?
I loved it. Let me rephrase. I loved it up until the very final page, because for one thing, I'm a huge Dan Mora fan. So this is written by Joshua Williamson, drawn by Dan Mora. Colorist Alejandro Sanchez, Ariana Maher is the letterer, and then we have Gillian Grant and Paul Kaminsky as editors. So I love Dan Mora. Everything that he produces is amazing to me. I just love his art style. To me, it's very much a modernized Norm Brayfogle. Is kind of that's the take that I get whenever I see his art. So I really loved it, and I've been in World's Finest. I've been reading it all. I love it. So to see this story and with the Trinity of the Legionnaires, it was just really, really great. The big spoiler that I didn't like, because I hate the character, was Superboy Prime appears at the very end. And that's what I did not like. And so I'm kind of a little bit walking on eggshells about how this is going to result, but this is a great start for the storyline. It's a book that to me went real fast through the read. And I, even went through a few more times just to pick up some of the little details that they were throwing in the panels there. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed this, and I mean everything you said about Dan Mora. I'm not going to argue with. I think he's a brilliant artist. I am stunned at how many pages he produces in a month. I think that might even be like the thing that impresses me the best because the books look great. He knows how to draw superheroes about as well as anybody I can imagine, and yet he's producing pages at this, like, not John Byrne rate, but like he's getting to that level. And everything just looks so good. So to talk about like the thing you hated, I dislike Superboy Prime less than you do, but I still wasn't super happy to see him because at the end of the day, I kind of wanted this just to be the Legion. Like I wanted the focus to be there. And then instead we get this other, so now I'm kind of worried that it's going to be, I always hate this. Whenever Superboy Prime shows up, I'm just thinking it's like, okay, how many Legionnaires is he going to kill? Which is not what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. Plus, he always tends to say to suck the air out of the room, right? He's that kind of a character because, he was at the end of the day. If you look at Legion of Three Worlds, it was basically a Superboy Prime story, and not a Legion story, which is ridiculous, right? And so I'm hoping that they don't go in this direction, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll be much more forgiving if they undo a lot of the ways that characters were killed off in Legion of Three Worlds, if he's going to redeem himself, as some people are saying that's the arc that's going on here. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a great start. So let's just kind of go through sort of the high points of the book and the things that really stood out. So to me, like having Saturn Girl show up and that moment with Superman, and she's using her. So to kind of set the scene, she shows up in Smallville and she basically enters his brain and starts playing around inside. So she's using her power, like she's showing just how powerful she is as she's, pulling up his past memories. There was a great little moment where she goes, "Oh, you used to have a crush on me," and then kind of uses it against him. And I was like, that was cool. And that really showed a good bit of Legion history. And then the other one that I really liked is then she starts basically showing him the death of all of his friends and his family members as done by the Legion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Cosmic Boy shows up, and of course you don't know this is happening, but basically Cosmic Boy goes to the Justice League satellite and uses his powers and kills the entire Justice League. And there's a part of me that's like, yes, powerful Cosmic Boy. And then there's another part that's going, they're not really killing Batman, are they? And it's like, well, obviously not. But it was a nice moment. And then Lightning Lad shows up and kills Superman's mom. But we realize that it's just Saturn Girl playing with Superman's mind. And
Yeah.
it's so nice to see them respect their powers and show them with strength and show how powerful the Legion is, because too many DC comics like depower them or make them look so ineffectual. So this was really nice to see. Like they really elevated them.
But the other thing about this too, right, is that it was respectful and showed them exactly, it showed the reader how powerful these three are. But because this is the Darkseid Legion, they're evil. It shows them using their powers in the ways that they never would as a hero, right? Which is spot on, right? I mean, it's the mirror image almost of what the heroes are. Yeah, this is Saturn Girl. We've talked at length about Saturn Girl not trying not to go into other people's minds without consent, and here she is just completely messing with Clark. And then same with the other two. Right. And the other thing too here that I was thinking about when I was reading this, and I'm kind of interested in your take on this, since you're in the middle of or almost at the end of your 3-boot read. The way that Imra or Saturn Girl has an interesting line here. She says, "No one has called." Clark calls Saturn Girl Imra, and she says, "No one has called me by that name since I threw my parents into the murder pits of Metropolis." And what I thought, what came into my head when I read that, was that this is the 3-boot Legion, but they won the adults versus kids war in an extremely bloody fashion. But obviously, this Imra is speaking, and the 3-boot Imra does not speak. But that was the first thing that I thought about when I read that. But it was kind of cool to see these being played so evilly.
Yeah, and I didn't make the 3-boot connection to that because I was just thinking, okay, so this tells you that Darkseid's controlling everything. So it's the Darkseid's on Earth, and he's like, I want, like, who is the most powerful person on the planet? That's obviously Saturn Girl. Okay, what can I do to show that she's my loyal subject? Okay, she's murdered her parents, and that's kind of what and you're like, okay, and it's just these lines to establish who she is. It was really funny. So after this book came out, and then I went onto the Legion Reddit boards, and one person had commented about how strong Saturn Girl looked and the whole thing, and he said the only problem was that she's describing what she's doing kind of like a dime store villain, and that's the fatal flaw. And I said, well, the problem is that they have to explain who Saturn Girl is, because most of the readers don't have a clue, right? Yeah. Like. And that was the sad part about this book, is that, as you're reading this, they're kind of just doing this, like, here's who this is, and here's who this person is, and we have to give you all this history because we know you don't know. And I thought he did it really well without kind of evolving into sort of that horrible, melodrama of like, ha ha ha, the twirling of mustache. But
right.
It was done in a way so it gave you all the information you needed, and at the same time kept the story going, which I thought was great. Yeah, I mean, it was just, how evil can these characters be, and they really, they went all out. They were like, these are villains. We're not pretending, and yeah, really effective. One other moment I wanted to call out that I really loved was right at the very beginning when, like, Superman flies back to his Smallville home, and he's got the Legion ring in his hand. And I gotta be honest, there was a moment I was like, yes, like, perfect. Yes, they're back.
Well, for one thing, I was going to just say, for one thing, now we've absolutely established that, Superman was Superboy and went, was what met the Legion, right? So they existed. So Mike Carlin can go do whatever.
Well, I don't think he can do much, but yes.
Now we can, right?
Yeah, but it was just that nice little touch where you said like, okay, we're now establishing this. This is now, this is now continuity. Like we're not going to break this. And now I can only hope that they do, that this is now going to be, this is step one of step two, step three, and we're going to get to that.
Yep.
We're going to see more.
There's one other moment that I want to point out in this section while he's still at home. And so he's talking with Ma Kent, and they're talking about the Legion and the fact that he's there because if you have been reading some of the other stories in DC, if in the Summer of Superman special from earlier in the year, part of that story is Validus kind of pops up and Superman has to deal with him in the present. And so Superman knows that this is a Legion villain and he's trying to figure it out. So that's why he's home with the Legion ring. Anyway, Clark says something very, very interesting here. He says, "It's just the last time I saw them, the Legion was different, and the future is constantly changing. It just feels like tomorrow is so uncertain." And just that little word balloon, I think, is extremely important to however the Legion moves forward, because what this says is that whoever writes the Legion should be able to do whatever the hell they want and not worry about continuity, right? And any ties to the past. That's how I read it. Whether DC actually does that is a whole other discussion point.
Yeah, I thought it was I'm glad you called that out. I thought that was a really important line that really stood out when he said that, because I agree, like it's setting the tone of what's going to happen in the future. And I find it funny that that's happening, that line comes out at the same time that, the new history of the DC universe is being published. Yeah. Because you go like, okay, will Mark Waid tie the Legion to a certain thing in that book? Or, I know this is going to sound crazy to say, but I wouldn't have a problem if history of the DC universe actually ended at current day. Like they just, this is all we've got. And then basically say to anybody writing the Legion, exactly what you said, do what you want, play with this team however you want. We're going to redesign. We're going to, like nothing is sacred. Let's have some fun with this. And I hope, and I hope from that line, I hope that's where this is going, where we see, like a new, fresh version of the Legion.
So let's wrap up the story here. So out of the blue, while Saturn Girl is kind of mind torturing Clark, our old friend, the Time Trapper, but with Doomsday under the hood, shows up and kind of steals Clark away, and then that's where they end up in the some kind of a pocket universe, and this is where we find Superboy Prime.
Now, here's my question, just because I'm not familiar with this. When did Doomsday become the Time Trapper? Is that a recent?
So the as part of the, I saw it as that other kind of crossover timeline story that is bouncing between Justice League Unlimited and World's Finest. He made an appearance there. But I don't know if that's where they define him. I'll have to go back and look. It's been fairly recent. It's a fairly recent development.
That's what I had thought, because I checked back on a bunch of stuff and I couldn't see anything, and really they had kind of ignored the Time Trapper for a bit, anyways. Right. I don't know. I'm still kind of. It's all going to depend what they do with that, because there's a part of me that's like, I think the Time Trapper is most effective when you don't know who's behind the robes and it's more just a mystery, or you can start setting clues. And Doomsday is a really interesting choice, but it wouldn't have been in my top 5 choices. So if they can make it work, I'll be impressed. But I
would have picked Lori Morning.
There you go. So I would have picked Matter Eater.
Yeah. Superman 19 was where this concept was introduced. So.
Yeah, and then the whole talk about the Pocket Universe as well are they referencing like the Pocket Universe that was created during the Levitz run and the Baxter run? Are we to think that's the same thing, or is it a different Pocket Universe that we're talking about?
The way I read it is that it's a tip of the hat to that story, but it is a different Pocket Universe.
Yeah, it's because
it's a different Time Trapper.
Yeah, and the one thing, and this will be my last little criticism of Superboy Prime as we're talking about this. The one thing that I just can't stand is when he talks to the audience.
Oh, I know.
it just pulls you so far out of the story. And I'm like that, like with Deadpool, it works because it's a comedy, and with She-Hulk or Ambush Bug, like, okay, that makes sense. But when it's this kind of high stakes story and it's Superboy Prime, and he's, I mean, is genocidal too strong of a word to describe Superboy Prime?
I just call him a psychopath, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just goes. It's just that little like, it just doesn't work on a lot of different levels. So, I mean, would worst case scenario be Superboy Prime is the one who joins the Legion, and then that's what we're dealing with? Would that be the absolute worst way this could go?
God, I hope not. That would I don't know what I would do in that scenario, but I really hope not.
Anyways, so let's wrap this up, because we didn't want this to be a long one. We just wanted this to be a quick Legion alert and get our thoughts down. And I will just say this for anybody: if you're a Legion fan, if you haven't picked this up, go check it out go pick it up in your comic book shop. And I'll say this: go pick it up in your comic book shop to keep the comic book shops going. Right, like that's another big part of this. But it's well worth checking out. And I mean, yeah, is this the best? I mean, Ryan Sook's Legion looked good. This has got to be the best the Legion's looked since then. Not that they've made a ton of appearances, but
for sure. I mean, you can go back and you can see, I think in the All In special where they had this Darkseid's Legion was first introduced, and you can kind of see most of the Legionnaires, right? You see Kid Quantum, and you see Vi and Jim, and you see Element Lad and Phantom Girls in there. So we have seen all of them, but this is the first time we're really seeing them in action for a decent amount. So this is good. This is definitely good. Gotta get it. And so if you all would like to give us your thoughts about this particular issue, Superman 28, you can shoot us a comment over at longlivethelegion.bsky.social on Blue Sky, or you can send us an email at longlivethelegion2025@gmail.com.
There we go. All right. And we will see everybody in a couple of weeks with our next episode. Long live the Legion.
Long live the Legion.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.